Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Late show. Hi, everyone.
What's your favorite?
My favorite. Short shows. Hi, everyone. Pack it in.
Pack it in.
Yeah. Orioles lost today, 6-3 to Atlanta. Nats lost today as well, 7-2 to Detroit. Patrick Corbin was on the mound today.
Of course he was.
So Callow likes to point that out to everybody who's listening. It's not going to go well for them, so their winning streak is over.
For monetary purposes, it's important to point that out.
For monetary purposes, the learners are happy when this season is over, too, with him. Different monetary purposes.
You know, someone sent a tweet out earlier this week. It was an MLB writer that said the Nats at the time, they were only down out of the wild card race by a game and a half. And they were like, you know, the literal difference is Patrick Corbin and Joey Gallo, right? Of being in the wild card at this point, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I was like, wow, that actually is spot on. If they threw anyone else out there,
we'll see how it goes. I will stick to they will have a bad month, and that will, determine it all. And obviously they have no shot of making some kind of run in their division. So, so that's the problem they have.
Yeah.
The realistic problem that they have. Anyway. Whatever, guys.
I'd say their pitching staff's as good as the Braves, though. The Nats.
The Nats?
Yeah. ERA-wise, they're about the same.
Well,
so.
All right.
Braves have bigger names. But
hot take. I like that.
It's not a hot take. They're like 12 and 13th in pitching ERA.
That's right, hon.
You're like, shut up and let me talk about something else besides baseball.
I like baseball a little bit. Let's see. I got to see the end of Commanders minicamp today. So it's all shut down for 6 weeks, guys. We'll see you at the end of July. No date yet. I don't know when camp opens.
That's weird.
Usually it is a little weird.
I'm sure that'll be announced, 2 weeks from now? Because then it'll be about a month, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a month ahead.
Yeah, because they got to, people have to ask for tickets to go see it.
Oh, yes.
They're free.
Yeah, right.
They're free,
yes,
but they want to limit the amount of people that show up.
Yeah, and I think
that's going to happen.
Part of my season ticket holder perks are I get a day where I'm in a special area.
Special area.
Not that I ever make it out there for it.
You should come. You haven't probably been to training camp in a long time.
How many things I do around here in the mornings? I can't. I wish, but
Call in sick that day.
It's also weird. You know how this is. It's weird being someone that works where we work and then being a fan like that. It's one thing to be just sitting in my season tickets, whatever. Who cares about that? But then being
to go see them practice.
Yeah, it's a little. Hey, I know you guys. Hey, Bram. Hey, Blake.
Hey, Blake. Oh, I'm over here. I can't go over there. How you doing? Yeah, that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Let's see. All right, so let's go over what happened today. Dan Quinn spoke. He was asked the question, is Jaden Daniels the starter heading into training camp? And as I anticipated, he did not say that.
Right.
He said it will be a competition. He qualified that by saying, what I think we all kind of know, which is it's all trending that way, but they're just not handing it to him. And last week I pointed this out. I'm like, during those OTAs, when they went 11 on 11, Mariota actually got the first, quote unquote, snaps with the first team.
Yeah.
And then this week, Daniels got the snaps with the quote unquote first team. And today they didn't even do any 11 on 11 stuff. They did some red zone drills and they did some other 7 on 7 things. They never even really put the whole thing out there. But he got those in all the prominent moments and with Terry and Jahan and everybody on the field. And so he got asked the question, which I thought was the fair question to ask, and it's the right question to ask. Is he your starting quarterback? And he wouldn't commit to it yet, even though I think we all know it's going that way. Right. But I think it was the right thing to do. It goes back to what we were talking about the other day. This team has gone out of its way to not overly pressurize the situation, even though everybody knows the situation's very pressurized. And they're just trying to take the air out of the balloon and just let it kind of happen. And this team...
RELAX. Everyone relax.
RELAX. He was at minicamp. Yeah. That's the good news.
Yes.
He was here. He performed in it. He showed up at 5:45 for it.
Right.
His darkness retreat is in the bubble in Ashburn. That's what he does with Luke McCaffrey.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. No ayahuasca. Not into that. No ayahuasca. Yeah. If he does an interview with McAfee, it won't go off the rails. It's going to be normal sports talk if that's what happens. So that is the, it's no mystery solved, but it's exactly what I thought it would be. And I think it's the right thing to do, honestly. I think we all know he's going to win the job, short of some kind of weird turn of events or hopefully no injury in training camp or anything like that. I think we all know where it's going.
Yeah.
But I think it's the right thing to do. And he basically phrased it exactly how I thought he would, which was, and he said the stuff you saw last week with Mariota was intentional. And the stuff you saw this week with him starting was intentional, starting in quotes. It was intentional. We want to give them both the opportunity. We want them both to know that there is a competition here that's happening. And everybody on earth knows which direction it's going to end up, sooner rather than later. But what is sooner? I don't know. So they're going to make them earn it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And considering what the expectations are on the team and, maybe internally they don't feel the same way that externally they feel, I don't think there's any kind of rush here. They don't have a roster that screams like, get them up and going because look at what they have. So they're going to let it play out, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jaden said it back on that podcast with Shannon Sharp where he was like, they haven't anointed me the starter. They said they're going to start me when I'm ready.
Yeah.
You can't make that determination on June 13th.
No, some teams do.
Right,
I mean, the Bears did, but I'll go back to go look at who their backups are. Like, it's obvious he's going to be the starter.
And also,
there.
Caleb also demanded a certain kind of clearance going to that team. So.
I think so. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if his people said, you're going to announce very early that I'm the starting quarterback here. And oh, by the way, Justin Fields is not going to be here and all that stuff. I bet that that happened. Not that they weren't going to trade Fields, but I bet that they said to him, we're not going to have a situation where I walk in here and that guy's still there.
Correct.
Like, that's not happening here.
And you got to remember, it was the Friday of their rookie camp. They're like, he's the starter. And I was like, all right, well, you're getting it out of the way there.
Yeah.
That seemed very preordained.
They also didn't go after someone as established like Mariota to be his backup because I think probably for this reason alone. He's their starter and they're moving forward. And I mean, you could argue that Jaden really should walk in and be the starter just based on what's around him too. No offense to Mariota, but they're going to make it play out. And when Mariota's name gets brought up, they go out of their way to talk about that, like, he was brought here for a reason. We know he can play. Like, they say all this stuff. Like, they don't paint him like the traditional backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen there. And I think that that's the right thing to do, personally.
Yep.
The other one is offensive line. So... Excuse me.
Dude, what was
that? I missed
that?
the clearing of the throat with the off button for a second.
One of the most asinine things I've ever seen you do.
I know. I got confused for a second.
Bram turned his mic off, turned it back on, then coughed into the microphone.
Then cleared my throat. I know. Normally, you turn it off to clear your throat, then turn it back on. But, we got a late start. I'm a little thrown off, and I got it wrong. Sorry.
You were just Wentz airmailing one. That's what that was. That was the equivalent to you being on air. Scott's asking you questions.
Yeah, Scott's
I thought you were a broadcast professional.
Why did you turn off your mic, then turn it back on, then cough? And then I had to get Jason Wright to yell at him.
Release a press conference or something. Yeah. Wow. I had to call you out on that. That was you looked at me and gave me the okay. Just call me out on it. So
I knew I messed up. Everybody messes up. I messed up. I knew I had to clear my throat.
How long have you been in broadcasting?
Don't normally do that.
Longer than I've been alive, I think.
It's rare. It's rare. I'm not degenerate, Al. I mean, every once in a while I make a mistake, though. I made a mistake. Okay. Offensive line. Today, if you go with the starters, Cornelius Lucas was back at left tackle.
Okay.
I made a big deal last week of, it was Trent Scott and Brandon Coleman.
Yeah.
And we were having sideline discussions with all the people that I talked to there about what do you think is going to happen with that position. I had a lot of what do you think is going to happen with these position conversations, which I can talk about in a little bit. But let me start with offensive line because left tackle's an open competition.
Yeah.
I think Cornelius Lucas is clearly leader in the clubhouse. I'm still not sure that they haven't acquired everybody that they're going to acquire.
Of course.
We're going to keep watching what's going on here. There are a couple of veteran prominent names that are available, but David Bakhtiari's played 3 games in 3 years. I can't see it.
Yeah,
I can't. I mean, unless he's willing to come in here and play on some $1 million deal with a lot of incentives, I just can't see it. DJ Humphries is available, but he tore his ACL or tore something. He did something Achilles or ACL. I can't remember, but it was at the end of last year. So is he even ready? You know, so maybe in the summer they'll check back in type of thing because Kingsbury, coached him. So I think that's a name to watch. And then we're just going to wait and see is there some kind of early cut or surprising cut by another team, either before or at the start of training camp or early enough in it where a team does right by somebody? Typically, they hold on to people now because there's only one cut. So you can wait till the end of the preseason, but sometimes teams do a guy a solid.
Yeah.
If he's not going to make the team a week early to give him an opportunity to latch on somewhere else, it's going to be late in the game, though. I still think that's keep an eye on it. I mean, they have a lot of cap room. Not that I think it's going to be used on anybody in any major fashion, but a left tackle does get paid typically a decent amount of money. Well, they have a chunk to do it with, even if it's $5 to $10 million to bring somebody in. So we'll see what happens. But asked about that, I actually thought Dan Quinn made what I thought was the closest thing to news about anything about the roster today, which was he pointed out that the joint practices with the Jets and the Dolphins are going to be very determinant for them about who they think is really going to be the starting offensive line. I think we know definitively 3 of them.
Yep.
And the fourth, Allegretti, is the likely candidate to be the left guard, and I'm not sure anybody will beat him out just from my viewpoint at this point. And that's the goal anyway, is for him to win the job. But left tackle's an open competition. So those joint practices for that position, as it stands now without anybody else on the roster, is going to be huge.
Got it. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that's where you can test those guys too.
More than the preseason games.
Yeah, get some one-on-ones or get them as a unit. Yeah, for sure.
These joint practices are so much more important in these games now.
Yep.
So much more important because the coaches get on the same page. They work on the things that they want to work on. All of the players on the team who are going to play in the real games actually participate in them. So you want to find out who the corner is going to be? I'd like to see Jalen Waddle on Emmanuel Forbes and not whatever third-string Dolphins receiver that's never going to make the team. It makes no difference. That's not a good gauge.
It's exchange of information, too.
Yes.
It's like, what guys do you need us to work on? Like,
Correct.
Do we need John Allen to go up against your center because you're trying to see who that's going to be?
It's controlled. Yes, it's controlled. It's we want to do this. You want to do that.
Yeah.
It works both ways. They're typically a lot more fiery than the preseason games are.
Yes,
like the
Ravens.
competition. The competition really ramps up. We had it last year. The Ravens and the Commanders really got into it by the middle of it because they did it for 2 days.
Yes,
and that's why. The second day is real tricky, I think, as guys get real heated with one another. And it's the closest thing to the competition that you're going to get, but it's controlled. The quarterbacks aren't going to get hit.
Yeah.
So Tua, if Rodgers shows up, will probably take part in that.
I think he'll be there for that.
Who knows?
I think.
Wait for that Rossini treat that morning. Aaron Rodgers will not be at the joint practice because he needs to get away from football, and that's his choice. He's on the campaign trail with RFK.
I did love if people got on her about the wording of that tweet.
Well, the wording was stupid. That's his choice. Of course it's his choice. Why are you defending him?
The reply was like, thanks, Mom. Okay.
I know. He's allowed to. He doesn't have to like bologna sandwiches, does he?
When's the last time Aaron Rodgers has eaten any kind of processed meat like
Never.
that? No,
a long time.
Long time.
That's why he hates his parents, because it happened when he was young. They fed him. He found out doing. Yeah, that's why he did his research and he found out that those meats are bad for you, and that's what started the problem.
They are bad for you.
Yeah.
I mean.
Anyway, so offensive line, I thought that was the most newsworthy-ish thing that he said today because he wouldn't name a starter at quarterback. I'm not surprised. But offensive line, he went out of his way to say the joint practices will have a lot to say about, and that makes sense to me because I don't think there's a starter there. I don't.
Yep.
I think that could go likely Lucas or Scott or someone who's not on the roster currently. And I suppose it could be Brandon Coleman. That was one of our sideline conversations because people were like, do you think he could track quickly to actually be the starter? My gut tells me no.
Yeah, right.
But who knows? And it's not like he's in a situation where he's, trying to vie behind some Pro Bowl tackle. He's not. So I guess it's possible. I would just describe that as very unlikely. And I think the goal would be that he's the primary left tackle backup who either ascends at some point in the season or becomes it next year, best case scenario. And if that doesn't play out, earmark the draft for a left tackle again,
okay.
In all likelihood. But I thought that was interesting. Then the other thing, which I thought was interesting too, because he hasn't been asked a lot about this, which is a bit surprising considering his background, is they haven't really talked about the defense very much because Jaden Daniels gets so much attention and everybody wants to know what's he doing. And the limited time that you have for these press conferences, it's Jaden this, Jaden that. What are you going to do about tackle? Jaden this, Jaden that, right? Sure. And then, you get McLaurin does 20 minutes and that kind of sucks up a news cycle for 2 days and it's all about the offense, all about the offense, all about the offense. The defense, is an unusual bunch that I think has a lot of, I would describe this as a lot of mystery to them. I think that they're using that to their advantage. Joe Witt said this the other day.
Yeah.
He
said
called
there's no
out
starters, right? Like, I think he said that last week.
He said, don't at me about what starters are.
He's like, you're going to see everybody.
You are. And I agree with that. And Quinn said this about them, which I thought was another semi-newsworthy thing out of him, which, and this is not abnormal for someone to say it, but I thought it really kind of hit the nail on the head with this. He said, we're going to have, and he said Adam specifically, is going to have some very tough decisions at the end of the preseason because the way it's going right now, it's become extremely competitive. We don't really have starters outside of obvious people like Payne, Allen, Bobby Wagner.
Yep, right.
Chin is emerging big time as like a very vocal, versatile player on this team. He also comes in with an unusual size, speed, skill set, so he's exciting to watch out there. And I have a feeling he's going to become kind of a quarterbacker of the defense. That's what I think is going to happen. So he's starting to emerge as kind of a pivotal player. But he said out loud, we're going to have a lot of tough decisions to make. And I believe it, because if you watch to this point, there are no starters. There's a group of people that walk out there first, and there are people who are, nobody's better on the D-line than Payne and Allen. So, like, obviously, like, they're going to play a lot, you know, for the team. But everywhere else, with an exception of Wagner, like, exactly or Luvu, who they spent money on and is going to be a prominent player. Name the guys, you know, that are, like, clear-cut, that's the guy at that position. And so I actually thought that, like, the way he put it almost made me think there might be a couple surprises by the end of this process. And I agree with them that, like, the vocal side that we see in practice thus far has been the defense.
Right.
They're the loud ones. They're the ones, like, today they did red zone drills. And I think it was like 2 or 3 straight, it was 7-on-7. There were like 2 or 3 straight plays where it was just like airmail passes or incomplete passes. There was an interception, and they were chirping hard at the offense. They, like, collectively at the offense. It wasn't just like last year, peanut gallery, Montez and Chase making fun of everybody. No. Like, the energy really, I know while everybody's focused on Jaden, and they should be, but, like, the energy is really coming from that group, which semi doesn't surprise me. This is Dan Quinn, Joe Witt. And if you do look at the compilation of talent, there is, to me, in my opinion, the likelihood of that unit being, like, above average quickly over the offense. And I do think that there's a possibility here, you know, granted the corners are going to have to live up to this, but I do think there's a possibility here that they're better than most people think they are because they have a very unusual group. And when they say things like we don't have starters, I believe them. I think there's going to be a lot of sub packages this year. I think corners every man for himself to try to win jobs and get on the field. But the rest of it, Jeremy Chinn's going to be used in multiple ways. I've seen him as a single high safety. I have seen him as a linebacker. I've seen him moving around. Quan Martin could be a corner. He's probably a safety. He's a smaller version of Chinn where he could be a linebacker. Jamin Davis is a total mystery. Right now. I don't even see him working at linebacker. So he's a total mystery to me about what they're thinking about with him. I don't think he falls into the category of tough decisions, but maybe he does.
Right.
Because if he does not take to as like an edge rush, stand-up edge rush type of role, I don't know what it is.
Well, also, if it's
I don't know what it is.
If it's by committee, he fills that role too. If he's only going out there on third downs or whatever.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm just saying their own words are
third down as a blitzer.
Right.
Really.
Right,
I think like what they've learned here is that he's not in coverage, right? That's not going to happen with him. So those were interesting. The names that Quinn called out, and I always just pay attention to this because he was asked about the defense, and he called out 3 names specifically. And he said Chinn, who, if you are like just watching what's happening so far through the spring, you're very pleased. Like, that bet is paying off big time. Like, they got him on a deal, and it's just 1 year, and it's a show me deal. But the way he has performed and the roles they have him in and what appears to be the kind of on-field leadership vocal person that you can hear it from him, they got a hit in him. So I'm hoping it plays out that way. But he got called out, and I'm not surprised he got called out because he's had a great spring here with them. The other one's Luvu. They love him. I think he's the most prominent free agent that they signed and the biggest difference maker, maybe outside of Wagner, on that side of the ball for sure. He should be. And then he called out, who had this crazy play yesterday, was Quan.
Yeah, right.
Quinn loves him.
Okay.
He went on and on today and was asked a follow-up about him and just went on and on about how we knew who he was coming out. We really liked him. He's a versatile player. He clearly has some ball play ability. You saw this on that weird viral interception that he had yesterday. We saw this the second half of the season of the draft class.
He was like the very few positives in the second half of the year. He was
the one who totally stood out.
Yeah.
By the second half of the season, he looked like the first round pick, not the other guy.
Right.
He looked like the first round pick. And Quinn and Witt have a way, and they are so far, they're being, and I don't blame them, they're very close to the vest about what they're going to do. They're showing us what they want to show us, but these packages and sub-packages are all being moved in and out and around.
Yeah.
And Martin has emerged here in the spring as someone who's taken to this and might become the ball hawk that they're looking for. I'm hoping he's Deron Bland in a safety's body. That's what I'm hoping happens with him, because it appears as if he's emerging as a primary movable piece. But I thought those three things, quarterback competition's on, whatever you make of that. O-line competition's going to come down to who wins that job and probably in joint practices. And the D, I think you might have a couple surprise cuts by the end of this whole thing because they've already foreshadowed it.
Yeah.
And if you've watched practice, you could see it coming at a couple positions. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram Buster Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. No Throwback Thursday this week because we only had one song to play.
That's right.
I was actually hoping you would do something current. We didn't. I should have told you that. Because Throwback Thursday could just be like last year, the Hershey Bears are back in the finals again.
Right.
They won. They blew a 3-0 series lead in the Eastern Conference Championship of the AHL, and then won last night in overtime over the Monsters. And they get to play Coachella again. They get a rematch of the final last year that they won. So Ted's happy. His Hershey team is winning all the big games, Michael.
He doesn't own Hershey, though.
But he likes them so much.
Do you want to hear my guy Zach Fish's final call of that on the radio side?
Sure.
Zach's fantastic.
Sure.
I know him. He's filled in for John
This
before.
is an overtime last. A Game 7 overtime.
Yeah. 2-2.
Feeds, great pass between the legs to Huntington. Now to Logan Day. Right towards Huntington. Day wants it. Shot to the goal. Block comes loose. They score! They score! Garrett Rowe! The Bears win! The Hershey Bears are going back to the Calder Cup Finals!
Very good. He's not going to be able to speak today.
Zach's great. Like,
That's very good.
I don't care. I don't think he cares that I say this. Like, Zach belongs in the NHL.
Yeah,
he's
very
that
good.
He's that good. He's fantastic. So
Yeah, it's great.
Happy to see that he's getting another long run.
Very good call. Very call. Okay, very good. So they're back. Good for them.
Yes.
When's Game 1? Do we know?
Friday.
Wow.
Tomorrow.
And Coachella flew here.
Yes,
Because
days early.
awaiting.
Yes.
Assuming.
Well, at the time
It was 3-0 or 3-1.
It was 3-1, I think, when they flew in. They assumed Hershey was going to win one of the next four, and then everybody was kind of making fun of them of like, you gave Cleveland this bulletin board material by flying into Hershey, but ended up working out. Yeah. The schedule was kind of wonky. Friday, Sunday, then they fly out to Coachella, and then the games 6 and 7 are on like Monday and Wednesday nights. So I was kind of hoping one of those would fall on a good weekend, but that's not going to happen.
U.S. Open is happening at Pinehurst, and the leader is Patrick Cantlay, 5 under par 65. He got off an early round. Ludwig Aberg, 1 shot back at 4 under, also in the clubhouse. Frenchman Matthew Pavone, 3 under, also in the clubhouse. Rory still out there through 11, 3 under par. So just 2 shots off the lead. Still got 7 holes to go. So he's got an opportunity to be the leader or right there by the end of the day. Tony Finau, 2 under in the clubhouse. Bryson DeChambeau, good start to his round as well. He also through 11, 2 under par, 3 shots off of the pace. So they got a couple of big names up there. Sergio had a good day too. -169 today. Tiger Woods 4 over par. So in trouble from his... I might be able to win this too.
Okay, pal.
Bare minimum, 9 shots back after the...
I can still strap on football pads too. Yeah, sure, pal.
Yes. Orioles lost today to Atlanta by the final of 6-3. Nationals lost today, so their winning streak is over. They fell to Detroit 7-2. Last night, boy, we got We got the worst of Luka, I guess. I'm sure you saw Windhorse go off on him.
Yeah,
Did you see this?
Yeah, we have
Which
it.
I thought was
we have it in our system.
I thought it was a bit much. I thought it was a bit much.
I don't. It's the finals, and I think you shouldn't be watching a player and saying, "Does that player have more in him?" And I
agree, but like it came out like over the last 2 days he's been like shooting up to like get through the pain of even playing through it,
right,
and so the part of me kind of goes, I don't know, man. Like I'm not sure I would take the shot at him, and he's not the reason why they're losing this series. Like let's be real about that. Like they're playing a better team. They really are.
Right.
And the first game, that was Kristaps, an avalanche that occurred, and it had nothing to do with Luka's defense. And then game 2, he gave them every chance to win, and Kyrie didn't play well enough where they were talking about, is this a career-defining moment, game 3 for him? He was great last night, by the way. And then, so I'm like, all right, so he wasn't his best last night, but he's like keeping it together. I bet he's getting surgery after the season. Watch, like you're going to hear it because he's like taking shots. So I thought it was a little much going after him. They're playing a better team, period.
I will say this, yes. What's going to get lost here is like the Stephen A. and Windhorst. They're going to go into how the Mavericks lost this series, and really it's how the Boston Celtics are
Nobody wants
winning.
to credit the Celtics.
Like, it's really weird.
They've won 10 straight They've won 10 straight playoff games. They've lost 2 games in the playoffs this year. They were the best team this year. They won more games by 20-plus points than any team in the last 30 years. I don't know why people just don't want to say they happen to be the best team and they're looking like it right now against the 5 seed from the West. Like what?
Right.
Why can't... It's just like not good for ratings to say they're good and just move on, because that's what it sounds like to me.
Somebody posted this because I guess it's about with the Celtics. I guess they struggle in the clutch, and because they're up, like no one sees this or something. And someone has this statistic that I guess you can break down, quote unquote, clutch minutes. And they said the Celtics are the greatest team of all time. That they are shooting better, and when the game gets close,
in clutch moments,
they're the
most clutch team in history.
And during this run,
see, this is
so last night they break down a 20-point lead, and all they did was shut them right back down.
That's
and win
right.
The game. Like I mean,
Dallas had their chance.
Any other team folds.
That was a heck of a comeback.
Yeah,
and I will say this in defense of Luka. Okay, so he fouled out, which is ridiculous that it happened, and then he complained about it, which I'm not surprised he complained about it. Of the last 2 fouls, both were marginal, and one was a bad call.
I agree. Yeah.
So, like the one where Jaylen Brown hooked his arm and, like basically forced the foul to be called, that could have gone either way and really should have gone against Brown. I thought Luka was actually right about that. The other one where, was it a block or was it a charge? I don't know. Like 9 times out of 10, under that scenario, they probably wouldn't have fouled out Luka. They would have gone the other way, but they didn't. And I don't think it was the wrong call. Yeah. But, I just, in that scenario, 4 minutes left in game 3 of the finals, to actually foul out the star of the other team is so unusual that it felt weird. But neither call was really off or wrong. And so he wasn't great on the defensive side. He's not the reason why they're losing, which is why I'm kind of like, if he was like 2 of 17 from the field, I would hear out the like screaming at him. And then this idea that this is a mismatch that became very apparent early in the series. So I don't know, that the screaming and yelling that you're not doing enough and you're the reason why, the Mavericks aren't going to win a championship, I think is kind of missing the full picture here. Yeah. And that's why I think it's a little much, honestly.
This is the second time I'm going to do this for you because I think it's the most important stat discrepancy. All right, last night, Luka led the way. 6 assists. All right, good. All right, all right there. Better than game 1 that I read out. After him, Kyrie, Josh Green, PJ Washington had 2. They can't move the ball.
No, they can't move the ball.
That's ridiculous.
And then at the end of the game, Kyrie didn't even pass the ball. It was all...
That 1-3, he shot up while he was going sideways. Yeah, I was like, oh, no. Like, guy, you gotta set your feet there, buddy. Like, come on.
No. So I'm on the other side of just reality on this one, which is he's a great player who didn't have his best game, but is still really good. Fouling out is a little indefensible, but I will hear him out late on a couple, because 2 of the calls came late, and both of them could have gone the other way. And typically the referees benefit of the doubt to a star, and they didn't in either one of those cases. So I'll hear out his complaints of that. And that was right in the midst of the comeback, which kind of stunted the whole thing once he went off the court. So I'll hear out he's complaining about that. to turn around today and basically blast him and say that he's the reason why they're losing, I think is really missing the boat here. And it just goes back to the dumb sports conversations that infuriate me in our medium now, which is not just crediting the way better team and saying this is an amazing run
right.
and trying to figure out a way why
the buzzsaw, essentially.
Right. Like why can't the enormous underdog pull off the upset of all time and then get mad about it?
Yeah, right.
Like, faux mad about it.
Sure. Yeah.
Are you not watching the same thing I am? Because Boston, yes, has caught breaks to get to this point. They've also dominated the teams that they've played, and they were the best team the entire year, and they were a favorite coming into the season. Why can't they just be a great team? I don't understand that.
Well, and it's
why is that terrible to say?
Well, it's like also on top of it, it's like Tatum, Brown, and then they have maybe like the best playoff defender in Drew Holiday in this decade as their third guy. Like, I mean, they're stacked.
From the get-go, I'm like, Holiday's going to be the difference here.
Yeah.
Like, if Kyrie is off, and like he'll have a couple good nights, but the first 2 games he was totally shut down. Right. Like, they have no chance. Anyway, so there's that. That series basically over. Stanley Cup Final Game 3 tonight. Edmonton better win.
Right.
Let's see if they can even get shots.
Yep.
Because they didn't the other night.
The most important part about this one, Edmonton gets that last change, means they're going to try to get McDavid away from Barkov. Let's see what happens there. Let's see what happens.
I have a feeling that one's not over. I think Florida's going to end up winning it, but I don't think this is like the NBA Finals. I don't think it's going to be a sweep or anything like that. So I expect Edmonton to win tonight, I think.
You think.
And then it'll be a series. Sure. You know, like them scoring 1 goal in 2 games, that can't continue.
No, of course not.
They're too offensively gifted.
I think they're going to
continue.
I think it's going to be more offense in this one. I think it's going to open up a little bit.
It will. All right, everybody, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bram Buss's Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital.